Today's call is titled How to Get Subscribers on YouTube and how Steve Dotto went from 4,000 subscribers to around 85,000 subscribers in around 2 years. Now, to me, that's kind of cool because I've been on YouTube for a while now. I've kind of had a bit of a break for the last 2 years. But, my channel is sitting somewhere like 35,000 subscribers. And while that's cool, I've been watching people like Steve and thinking, how on earth are these guys building audiences so quickly on YouTube? So I'm really excited to have Steve on the call today. Let me just share a little bit more about Steve before I introduce him. Let me flick over to my main slides here or screen. This is Steve's website. If you do want to check it out, it's at dottotech.com. There's some cool stuff you can check out there. He has a ton of really valuable and free information on his site. Also check out his YouTube channel, which is this one here. If I just zoom in a little bit more, you'll be able to see it better. That's what that looks like. And actually, if we go to the home part of it, the video will probably start autoplaying.
How the heck?
I'll just pause that. Wonderful channel. You'll see there he's got 85,000 subscribers. He's got over 5 million views on his channel since he's been doing this. So make sure you check it out. I think, let me just check actually. On this video, I'm making use of the cool cards feature. So if you look at the other side, your top right, there should be a little I button there or I circle. If you click on that, that'll open up Steve's channel. And you can go and check it out there. You might want to open it up in a new tab or something like that so you don't lose the connection here with us. But okay, without further ado, I'm just going to close some of these windows so they don't take up unnecessary bandwidth here in Australia. The Prime Minister has called me a few times saying, Gideon, what are you doing with the internet? Using all of it up? I'm almost a little bit serious there. Our internet is in a bad state. But anyway, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you now to my wonderful friend, Steve Dotto. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing just great, Gideon, and the latency doesn't seem to be too bad. I've got your video muted in the window there, and you're only a few seconds behind. So good on you, sir.
Yeah, it's a new thing that I've just discovered with this particular live event. That previously it would have taken like 30 seconds to a minute to see comments updating and stuff like that. Now there's a new little setting inside the live streaming with YouTube that looks like it brings it up to date.
Well, I'm going to pause the video because it'll drive me crazy seeing it. But it's good to see the comments. I like seeing the comments. But I guess we have a slight delay there as well. So that's so we'll just have to. Anybody that's done a lot of Google Hangouts is used to this, aren't we?
But, yeah, that's right. That's right. So
I have to ask you, Gideon. Yeah. Do you feel like you're kind of driving in a horse and buggy to pick me up here on YouTube with this after the last like 2 or 3 weeks of everybody going orgasmic over Blab?
Oh yes, absolutely, Steve. It's been an incredible thing to watch. I mean, we had Meerkat and sort of things were starting to take off, and then Periscope just went incredibly crazy with that. Then Facebook came up with their mentions thing, and now Blab. I mean, I know Blab's been around for a while, but they just had a new thing, right? So
it just exploded the last, I guess, 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe if there's time we can talk about that. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts and what you think the future is of live streaming and where things are going to go. Of course, that's not the topic for today's call, but I know a lot of people on today's call will be very interested in that, so we can leave that there.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't let people know that we saw it happening.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to make a note. We were here first.
Well, yeah, we were here first. Please come back. This is still valid.
Yeah. No, and I'd like to hear from you where you think YouTube also fits in the bigger picture, YouTube Live, Google Hangouts, and this sort of stuff as well. So that's coming up. Steve, before I let you tell everyone else a bit more about yourself, I just want to say something interesting. This thing here, just to make this call a little bit interesting, I'd like to give this set of earphones away today. This is a Backbeat Fit wireless music earphones. Stable, comfortable fit, durable and sweat-proof smartphone armband from Plantronics. In Australia, you pay like $160 for this. So I'd like to give it away today. We've got to figure out how we're going to give it away, Steve. So during the call, I'd love to give it away. So make sure you stay tuned. You might be the lucky winner.
Good stuff.
Steve, for our viewers, I think maybe just spend a little bit of time telling them a little bit more about you, because you've got a television background, which I think was just fascinating to know about. And then you've ventured into the whole YouTube thing and made a big success of that. We met at Social Media Marketing World start of this year, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
had a bit of a chat there. But I'd love for you just to share a bit more of your story, and then we can get into how on earth you managed to build your subscribers so quick. I'd love to know. So
Sure. Well,
take it away.
I'd be happy to. So, for better part of 20 years, I was a professional broadcaster in Canada. I hosted a Canadian television series called Dotto Tech, which was a how-to computer show. We also were on radio, and I did a newspaper column. So, you're in all the mediums that you can be in. I was kind of, I guess, kind of Canada's Leo Laporte, but I think I'm far better looking. But we did the kind of how-to video stuff, teaching people about technology. And we had a great run on broadcast, on network TV, 15 years. But of course, television's changed dramatically, and it just wasn't as valid anymore as we kind of hit 2010 and 2011. And so we wrapped up the show, and I kind of just didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't really have an exit strategy. And so I was goofing around doing a few different things and kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I hadn't, and to be honest, I hadn't really thought that I would end up back doing tech programming. I thought I would go on to do some, I'd kind of change channels and do something else. But I missed the technology. I certainly missed being part of a team. The big part of doing any television program is you're part of a pretty big, well-oiled team. And if you've got as successful a run as we had, that was a big part of my social life, and just my personal, how much joy I got out of life was working on that show. So anyways, you can fast forward a couple of years. I'd spent a little bit of time wandering in the wilderness, and I was speaking at an event, and I had just dabbled a little bit with playing with YouTube. To be honest, coming from television, I didn't really take YouTube all that seriously because I hadn't seen how it would really fit set against our broadcast metaphor, just because I didn't really understand the revenue models and all of those sorts of things. So it's not that I didn't think that it could be a serious place to build a community or build a business, but I hadn't really looked at it. And I met Mari Smith at a conference I was speaking at, and she looked at me and she says, "You've got talent and you're doing everything wrong." I went, "Okay." She said, "I'll show you how to do it right." So she actually kind of took me in and introduced me to the whole internet marketing world. She was in the middle of a product launch. So I knew nothing about anything in the internet marketing game. I didn't know what a funnel was. I knew what my web page should be doing for me, but I really didn't know any of the mechanisms that would build community. And in the time that I spent kind of at Mari's need, seeing what she was doing as far as launching a Facebook ads program and teaching people how to build a community on Facebook, I was fascinated by the engagement, fascinated by the fact that she was connecting with people all over the world, and she'd built this rabid community of people that she really had a relationship with. And so I thought, I'm going to try and do the same thing. But YouTube obviously is my channel. YouTube, I'm a video guy. I'd played with ScreenFlow enough and the tools to know that I could actually produce videos pretty effectively myself for the sort of stuff that I do. For how-to video, I could produce it fairly effectively. So I started doing some tests, and I took all the lessons that I learned from people like Mari and Mike Stelzner and Amy Porterfield by tuning into their podcasts and kind of following their content, and took what they were doing with their different social channels, and I tried to apply it to YouTube. And at the beginning, it was a little bit more difficult because back when I started, YouTube hadn't married comments to Google+. So the comments area were just a quagmire of people trolling, like the guy here that we've got trolling through. But that was comments area through all of YouTube as it was going. So many content creators were eschewing that, and they weren't engaging in the comments at all. I was naive. I didn't really know what it would be like, so I did keep comments open, and I didn't have too much trouble, to be honest, before they made the switch over. But as soon as YouTube made the switch over to Google+, it took off for me, because all of a sudden I had if I took all the lessons around community building that the others were doing, and I applied it just into YouTube comments, and I just honored my community. I produced good, consistent content. I mean, that's a given. I mean, you're not going to build a following on YouTube if you don't have good content. But to be honest, most of us have good content. The good content is the easy part. Figuring out how to build a community, that is the challenging part. So, but following the standards and the things that they were saying around being respectful of your audience, and for me, it was an epiphany. I mean, always in the past when I did television, my customers were the networks and my sponsors of my show. I never talked to the people who watched my show. I would see them on an airplane or at a conference, but I never really had meaningful dialogue with them, asking them what they were interested in. I was interested in what did Adobe want to spend money on, or Symantec, or Apple, or Microsoft. What did they want to spend money on this year? And that's how I set my editorial calendar, of course, for my show, because they were the sponsors. But all of a sudden, all those middle people were cut out, and I was having dialogue with people that wanted to see what I wanted to show them, or what I could show them. So I could show interesting products and have fun, and let my personality come out a little bit more, and be a little bit more the star of the show rather than just the technology. And it really took off from there. There's lots of different mechanisms, lots of different technical things that I did to grow the community. But essentially, I went in with an open slate saying, I'm going to build a community in YouTube and figure out how to make money once I've got some critical mass there. I knew I wanted to turn it into a business ultimately, so that would always be the goal. But I just knew intuitively that the first thing that you got to do is you've got to establish yourself. And here's what surprised me, Gideon, is I'd been on national TV in Canada for 20 years. I was, not necessarily a household name, but people recognize me. But my YouTube following is only about 8 or 9% Canadian. So it just goes to show you how democratic the internet really is. And if you produce good content and serve your community, you have a chance to get a foothold. Because a lot of people think, oh, you had a big leg up on the whole thing, Steve, because you did TV. And I did from a production standpoint. For me, producing video, sitting in front of a camera, and putting together a tutorial video is really, really simple. I find it easier than writing a blog post. But that's not the magic sauce. The magic sauce is what you do with the community as you start to grow it. And it's the way you engage. At least I believe that. So I think that, so it's encouraging for everybody else to know that they can, that potential is there.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. I mean, the reason I called the title of today's talk, "How to Get Subscribers on YouTube," is purely because that's what people are searching for on YouTube, and I know that, because of the experience that I've got over the years, and also the tools that I use to do this sort of thing. But the main reason why I wanted to get you onto the call today, Steve, was really for the community building aspect. And this is something that we've seen everywhere, little communities popping up. We've seen the Facebook groups that's just been extremely popular and working extremely well. We've seen it obviously on YouTube as well, building communities there. I know in our business, when we build a community, that's the thing that helps pull people together. It's like the glue of the business, right? And gets people to stay in the business, to talk about the business in a great way, and to spread the word. And for me, there's almost, I'm not sure if there's nothing better, but I mean, it's pretty awesome to be able to have a community that is supportive of you. I mean, look at today, we've got 130 people watching here live right now. It's a little community, that we can help and support each other and help spread the word about anything awesome happening. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today, Steve. It's great to hear the background that you've had in terms of the technical background. But let's start digging into the more finer details now. So you've had your channel for a while. It's been up since is it 2009 or something like that?
2006. Well, we established it back when we did the TV show in the middle of the run, but I never paid much attention to it really until 3 years ago. So I consider myself to be about 3 years into the process. When I had about 800 stale subscribers when I started dabbling with this about 3.5 years ago. And at the beginning, it was a very trepidant steps. I created a video in ScreenFlow on a product, posted it. It had no lighting, it had no audio. It was, it wasn't very well produced at all. But I was just trying to get a feel for the culture of YouTube, because I was coming in completely as a virgin. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the community would expect from me, and I didn't know what I had to offer them. So the first 6 months, while we grew from basically 800 stale subscribers that had watched the TV show to the first kind of 4,000 when I really started to pay attention to it, that was in fits and starts. I'd try a different type of video out, and it was just very typical of a lot of YouTube content creators, is there was no strategy, there was no rhyme nor reason to my channel.
More like a hobby, I guess, right? Like
it was nothing more than a flight of fancy. Just seeing what was there, seeing if I would be interested. And people that think you're going to catch fire because you're going to have one video that's going to go viral and it's going to take off. That hasn't been my experience. I was posting a video.
incredible story about the viral thing and why sometimes you definitely do not want to go viral. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's
It
some
could destroy
shockers
you for
around.
sure.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd post a video and it would take forever to get to 100 views and all of that sort of stuff. But at any rate, once I kind of hit that 4,000 mark and I decided to start concentrating on it, that's when I consider the beginning of this journey. And anybody can start it. That's the point that we'll kind of pick it up at, is when I decided that I wanted to make this a business and I decided to commit my energy into it. What are the steps that I took? What are the things that I did?
Right.
And
so let's dig into that. I mean, because I think that's it'd be great to get into some details here, Steve. Because I mean, so take us right back to when you made that decision to make this into a business, right? So it's not just a hobby anymore now at this stage. Now you're a bit more serious. You've got some subscribers coming in, but now you're thinking, okay, I've got 4K subscribers, 4,000 subscribers. But what did you do? Did you create a vision for this thing first? Did you talk to your customers? What did you do to go from at least in the beginning few months, to start that ball rolling and getting serious about building your community on YouTube and your subscribers as well as a result?
So I decided not to pretend that I knew what I was doing. So I decided to be really transparent and say, this is a journey. So we're going to figure this out together to the community that I already had. That allowed me any multitude of mistakes as I was going along. But it also allowed me to experiment with video style, with audio, with lighting, trying to get the whole mix, length of video, topic. It allowed me to kind of play with it and ask the audience on a regular basis what they thought of it. It allowed me to engage them. So that was step one, was making sure that I wasn't presenting something that I wasn't. One of the beauties of social is we don't have to be as polished as we did on television. On television, I had 23 minutes and 30 seconds. I had to be down to the second, and every moment had to be value. Not that every moment doesn't have to be value on YouTube, but you can misspeak. You can have a stumble, and it's fine to be that organic with your audience. So that's quite liberating, I think, for most of us. There's a lot of people that have to have polished video, and every word has to be perfect and every hair in place. But that's not me, and I could give up that, and it was liberating to give that up.
I just want to interject there, because I think that's something really important that I've noticed as well. I mean, look at us now. I mean, I guess you could say our presentation at the moment is relatively polished, but I mean, compared to a television production, it's not like we're wearing makeup or anything like that.
No.
I've got earphones coming out of my ears. You've got a good setup there. I'm not sure what you're using.
But what's polished is we prepared like professionals for this. We had a conversation about what the content was going to be. I was prepared coming in. It was well scheduled. So we did, just because the video production value doesn't have a whole bunch of extra bells and whistles, doesn't mean that this isn't, as far as I'm concerned, a very professional presentation, because we did the same amount of back work as I would do for a story on television or on radio.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You know, the preparation beforehand. Like you don't necessarily have to dress up and have all the best cameras and lighting and this sort of stuff. The key thing is that what you're saying here is that the preparation, knowing what you want to say and saying it in a good way, is very important. The delivery is very important, right?
Just before we go on, I noticed there's a question from Roy who's asking if he can watch this later. He needs to go to sleep now. This will be recorded and people can view it on YouTube afterwards, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's already being recorded, and you can already start watching it from the beginning now already if you wanted to. That's the beautiful thing of YouTube live events. Do they do that on Blab, by the way, as well?
You can. In Blab, it will record. If you turn on the recording function, at the end of it, the host will get an email with a download for an MP3, an MP4, and an embed code. It's pretty slick.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we might talk about Blab a little, because it's such a hot topic. I think we have to do it in a second. But
let's get to it at the end. Yeah, exactly, because it'll derail us completely. So, anyways, to Roy, good night, Roy. Backhouse, have a good sleep, sir, and we'll see you tomorrow when you watch the video.
Brilliant. Okay.
So, so the other things that I did at the beginning, Gideon, was, besides, first of all, deciding on the tone of the content, was I really paid attention to what the professionals were saying in the podcasting, the Facebook, the blogging community. And the number one thing that they all say to building and growing a community is this: be consistent. Give your audience consistent content. If they start to like you, they're going to develop an appetite for you. And if you don't feed that appetite, then you will lose them. There's too many options out there.
So hang on for a second there. Consistency. So I've heard this repeated over and over as well,
Yeah.
from people who have built great followings, whether it's on a blog or on YouTube or on Facebook. That consistency. So okay, that's all good and well. We know that in a sense. I mean, or we might sort of intuitively know that. But do you have any tips on the how part of it? Like, because it's quite a big deal to be consistent, right? If you make a commitment and say, every Thursday at this time, I'm going to have something ready to go, or every Tuesday, or twice a week even. It requires quite a lot of discipline to be able to do that, and not just discipline, but also, I guess, ideas. Because it's not just being there or creating something. It's like having good ideas for good content as well, right?
So there's two different sides of that coin. So the creative block, let's park for a moment and let's talk about how we actually create consistent content coming out on a regular basis. We all have a little bit of a challenge doing that at the beginning. There's no doubt. I do. I did, and I still do. It's work, but it can be done. It just takes a little bit of discipline and a little bit of planning, but mostly it takes a commitment. It takes that switch being flipped in your brain that you're not comfortable unless you are ready, unless you do have the pipeline filled. If you think it's tough to produce a video a week or a blog post a week, all you have to do is look around at what some of our compatriots do. Let's take a look at what John Lee Duma does. A podcast every single freaking day of the week. And they're pretty good quality. They're really good quality. Every day. He does it by systematizing. He has a system that he goes to. So let's think about what sort of a system you can create. My system helps me overcome things like that creative block because whenever I'm researching I use a tool called Evernote. I love Evernote. The reason I love Evernote is regardless of what I find, when I find it, and where I find it, I can put it in Evernote and come back to it later. So that's where all of my creative muse comes from. I see a cool app. Somebody sends me an email that says you should look at this. Somebody comments on the YouTube channel that here's a great app. What I do is I clip that and I store it in Evernote. And then when I'm in my production cycle, when I'm about to go into studio and record, or I'm planning ahead, I look through that and I schedule out my demos based on that content. So I never really suffer from creative block. Sometimes it takes me longer to get my head around a story because I have to sit there and live with whatever software I'm going to be demonstrating, since I do mainly product demos. So I have to. So that process takes anywhere from a week or 2 weeks for me to kind of live with and get comfortable with the product. But the bottom line is, because I've got a process in place, and I follow, and I have the discipline of when I see something cool, I clip it and I store it because I know what a benefit that is to me downstream, because it removes the pressure of me from worrying about content coming downstream. So so coming up with a process that works for you is the next most important thing. Commitment to doing it regularly, and then develop your own process. And I can't tell you what it is. You can figure it out. We're all smart people. But do it. The bottom line is, don't whine about it, because when you say it's so hard to do it, Steve, I just go, okay, tell John Lee that. Tell John Lee doing that. 7 podcasts a week. Yeah. Tell him it's too hard.
So, yeah, and I've just on that in terms of, because this is something that I think we all struggle with is sometimes when you say commitment, that it automatically implies something regular, right? Which then implies, I guess, a new habit that you've got to create or develop. And I've just been reading through a great book, Essentialism. I'm not sure if you've gone through that, Steve, but beautiful book. And it's all about being much more productive than you currently are. One of the things he talks about is habits, and he mentions this research that was done on how to develop a new habit really easily. And I'm wondering if it could be applied here as well. And he breaks it up into 3 things. Like, if you look at a habit, there are 3 things that are happening there to create, or that any habit falls into, or that any habit goes through. 3 stages. The first stage is that there's some sort of a cue or a trigger that gets this habit going, right? Get the habit to take place. And then the second thing that happens after the cue or the trigger is it goes into the routine or the process of that habit, right? So you're talking here about processes. So you've got this routine that you then go through. And then very importantly, the last thing, number 3, is a reward. With habits, when they form, there's always a reward at the end, right? So I guess in a way, this is a similar way that addiction takes place, right? There's a trigger, you go through a routine, and then there's some sort of a reward at the end.
Yes.
So when I saw that, I was just thinking, in terms of setting up new habits that you want to be committed to and develop really quickly. I mean, what he talks about is that all you've got to do really is figure out what that routine is first, but then create the cues that automatically gets you into that routine, and then make sure there's a reward as well, so that it rewards as good behavior. So whenever there's a cue for you, say for example, and he uses enough, this is now for changing bad habits to good ones. Whenever you get a cue for a bad habit, at that point you flick the routine. Instead of going into the bad habit, you flick it over into the new routine. So in this case, if you had a habit of I don't know, just watching videos on YouTube, or just checking your stream on Facebook, as soon as that cue happens, maybe the cue is as soon as you turn on Facebook, that's the cue for you to go into the bad habit of just watching your stream and not being productive. At that point, when you open up Facebook, you can have a visual trigger that goes off saying, "Hey, no, I've got to be creating content here," or this sort of thing, and then have a reward as well. You figure out a reward. So I wonder if that could be useful. I haven't tried it specifically with content creation, but I've tried it on many other things and it works really well.
Well, for me, I mean, there's a couple places that lives, but one is a big part of the habit that I wanted to create was I knew that engaging with my community was going to be number one. We've got a great question about what type of videos you create that leads to subscribers from Danica. So I will loop back to that, but this is the kind of the precursor to answering that question. So the first important habit that I formed was every morning I get my coffee, I sit down, and I open my my Facebook comments. I mean, not my Facebook, my YouTube comments. And I read every single comment. I give at least a thumbs up to everyone. I reply to as many of them as I can. And I clip anything that's relevant into Facebook, into Evernote. Excuse me, I'm cross on all my tools. I clip it into Evernote.
Right.
So that now that I've got a file in Evernote that has all of my ideas for upcoming stories, and I've actually started to do a new product called Ask Dottotech, which I actually answer some of the questions from it. But this gives me that grist for the mill, and I don't feel comfortable in the day. When that first cup of coffee goes along with sitting down and reading comments. And I don't go into comments for the rest of the day. If somebody makes a comment at 2 p.m, I'm not noticing it. I get to it at 6:30 in the morning. I sit down with a coffee, and that's what I go through. That's my habit. It's my routine. And the reward is I've always got a full roster of story ideas waiting for me. So I know intuitively from writing a newspaper column when I used to really suffer writer's block often, I know how that stresses me out. Removing that stress is very freeing, so that's my reward. So I love that. I love that analogy of working your way through. And there's another book that I think it was Tim Ferriss, talks about making things habits. And it only takes about 10 days for a routine to become a habit.
Right.
It's not a long time for us.
Yeah, not long at all. And
so I'd like to loop back to the question that we had here from when she was asking. Sorry, I've lost Danica. The post. Danica, there it is.
Yeah.
So she asked, how do you make a video? How does a video lead to subscriptions? So there's two ways. One is because I'm reading all of the comments, I know what's working and what's not working for my community, and that dialogue actually led me to the business models of selling digital products and other things, and telling me what products my community might be interested in buying and leading me in that direction. But they also lead me in the direction of what they want to watch. Of course, we make videos for people to watch to build community. So them telling me and me taking that and listening to what they're saying then leads me and helps me set my editorial direction. The thing that I didn't do at the beginning was ask for subscriptions. And every YouTube content expert on the planet says, ask people to subscribe. You have to tell people what to do. I thought because I'm so wonderful, people would just subscribe in droves because, darn it, my videos are good.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I was practically the mayor of Wrongville. They just weren't subscribing in any great numbers back at the beginning. And so I finally swallowed my pride. And at the beginning and early on in my videos, I started asking for a subscription. Now, I didn't stay with that model, but when I was asking for subscriptions early on, my subscription started to hockey stick up, and I was getting some real traction. Since then, I've decided that a loyal subscriber is better than just a casual subscriber, as I've kind of matured my channel. So now I ask for a subscription at the end of all of my videos. But I ask every video at the very end. I ask them to subscribe, and I also ask them to sign up for my newsletter, because at the end of the day, if we're talking business, a subscriber is great. but it's
Okay.
just nice.
So
A
pause,
person on my
pause there.
mail list is very valuable.
Yeah,
That's
because
what I want.
so pause there for a second, because this is
Yes.
something that I've been struggling with YouTube, because when I was getting started with YouTube, it was fantastic as a traffic generating source, etc. And it was naturally easier back then, it seemed, to build a community naturally. People would just naturally get engaged more on YouTube. And so what we did back then was we would only ask people to join our newsletter. We didn't really ask people to subscribe. People would just naturally subscribe and that sort of thing. And it worked extremely well. But then as YouTube matured, we noticed that it became more important to build a community on YouTube. So I'd like to, because I've been a bit out of it for the last years while I've been building V-Roll and Splashio. So I've been a little bit out of it. So I'd love to know your thoughts on, where
Subscriptions.
Okay. So, but which YouTube subscriptions or email subscriptions?
Okay, so YouTube subscriptions are a vanity statistic to a large extent. The more, I mean, there's lots of people that buy YouTube, buy subscribers and all those sorts of things. We all know that there can be a little bit of fudge factor in them, but they are really a vanity subscription. YouTube doesn't even look at them as far as ranking your channel or your video. YouTube looks at a couple of very important metrics. The main one is minutes that people watch your video and engagement. If they're clicking, if they're engaging, if they're giving you a thumbs up, if they're commenting, they want people that are finding what they're looking for and are engaged with your video. Having said that, that's YouTube, that's search, and that's ourselves looking at those most really relevant statistics. But the audience, forgive me, audience, are lemmings. We look for social proof all the time. And if we find a great video that has 32 views on it, we don't think it's great. So we need,
and on that point, if you could do us a huge favor, if you could like this video, give it a thumbs up. I mean, that would certainly help us. If you want to share it as well,
Absolutely.
while we're on the topic.
But that is it. I mean, so I noticed that my videos, that the more success I have, the more success I have. If that makes sense, success breeds success.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if you follow the rules of making sure your video gets, this is now talking kind of publishing strategy, but making sure that your video gets out fast and has lots of views early on, which subscribers will give you because they are notified of your video coming out, that sort of stuff. The more social proof you can get immediately onto a video, the more relevant it becomes. Just like when you look at a Facebook post, if there's 7 or 8 thumbs up on it, you're going, how relevant can it be? And if there's 800, you say, this is something that the community has deemed worthy. It's the exact same thing. So I only look at the number of subscribers and that the initial traffic on the site as basically as social proof, making sure that people recognize that my content has value. At the end of the day, I will always take a subscriber to my newsletter because while it's nice to have lots of views, it's essential to have lots of views, but it's nice to have lots of subscribers on YouTube. Our relationship with YouTube, while good, is tenuous. Things can change. And if things change, and we have to remember that a subscriber is YouTube's customer, not ours. A person on our mail list is our subscriber. We own that address. We need to get to that point if you want security and if you want control of your business. Look what happened in Facebook. People listened to Facebook, accepted what Facebook was saying. Facebook was saying, get people to like your page and then you'll be able to reach a larger community. And so people invested sometimes a lot of money in getting lots of likes to their page. And then Facebook says, you know what? If you really want to reach these people, now you have to give us money. What? You just changed the rules on us.
Fully.
Now we paid money to get these people to like us, and now you're holding our audience hostage? See, Facebook doesn't see it that way. Facebook sees them as their audience that they're giving us access to. And YouTube, while they're a better partner than Facebook, they still are just a corporate entity. They don't give two hoots about you, and they don't give two hoots about me at the end of the day. So we need to make sure that our subscribers live on our mail list. Ultimately, that has to be your business goal all the time.
All right, so just pause there again for a second, Steve, because and this is a problem I've been struggling with as well. So we know there's the importance of building this vanity metric. I do know in some cases or some tests we've seen, that channels with bigger subscribers, like YouTube subscribers, tend to rank better for content as well, given that it's good content, right? Because it's
Yep.
watch time and session time, those are the two most important things. But
Yes.
if all things are equal and one channel has more subscribers, then not only is it good for social proof, but it also gives you more authority and in the search engines as well.
Yes.
So the question I have is, we know it's important to to have this for social proof and for ranking, etc. But we also know it's really important to be building that email list, that email database. So when you create your videos practically, like what do you do? Do you have two calls to actions in each video, with one for YouTube subscriber, one for email subscriber? Do you do them both in the same video? Do you mix them up? Do one video have one, the other video have another one? How do you do it?
Well, and therein lies the challenge, Gideon, when we stop and think about it, because the nature of video and the nature of our goal, once we've got somebody watching a video, our goal, even though we've got these kind of 30,000-foot goals of getting them on our mail list, getting them subscribing, doing all those engagement things, but really, as soon as you start watching my video, my goal now, my short-term goal, is to have you watch the whole video. So the last thing that I want to do intuitively is interrupt you watching the video through, which is going to help me out with search. It's going to help me out on all those spaces, to interrupt that and ask you to go over and subscribe to my channel, in which case you might never come back to my video. So we're torn between two lovers here as far as it goes. So how I handle it is I compartmentalize. In my videos, I look at my videos, each of my video vehicles, because I publish enough videos, I look at each one of them as having a different role to play in building my business. My how-to videos, where I show you how to use Evernote Web Clipper, or I show you the newest Gmail app on your smartphone, those are designed to build my reputation, to build my brand, to generate search results, to build my credibility. And I add AdSense advertising to those because I'm giving everything away. That's 100% giving away of information. Then I do other more vertical types of content, like my Ask Dottotech and my vlog that I talk about growing your YouTube channel. And those I don't attach advertising, but I do more calls to action with. They're longer form, so I know I'm not going to get the percentage views typically on those, but I know I'm going to get lots of minutes from them. And so in those, I say, those I want people to, if people are going to watch and stay in those videos for a fairly long time, they're probably interested in kind of more holistically what I'm offering, so they are better candidates to migrate across to my newsletter. I still ask for in every video for people to sign up for the newsletter. I do it at the very end, but I might do a more active call to action earlier on in one of the other videos, just because there's a more natural transition to get them across. And the chances are they're going to come back to the video because they're involved in that longer form content. I struggle with video length. One of my concerns is I've been posting, this is kind of a little bit of a sidebar, but I've been posting some really good webinars that we've been doing. I've been taking them in long form, posting them to the YouTube channel, getting huge minutes viewed, but it's affecting my percentage. I look at every statistic that YouTube gives me jealously. I go, oh man, I've dropped beneath 50% of my videos being viewed. And I'm thinking, what's YouTube going to think of this terrible number? Oh, the travesty. But then I look at my minutes, and my minutes are exploding. So I'm going, oh, there's this balancing act. We really, there's not a perfect video. There's not a perfect format. And there's not a perfect call to action. You have to look at your content and measure that against your audience, and then figure out which of your vehicles is going to work best for which of your business goals. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's what we found as well. And each video has kind of its own little life, and each video can take on a life of its own as well. So that's really good. So really, I guess beforehand, maybe you could decide what your intention is for that video, and then be very clear with your call to action at the end. Oftentimes, what we would do is we would say, we want to focus on building something on YouTube, and we want to make that video rank. So instead of hosting that video on our blog, we would fully host it and send all the traffic to YouTube and say, okay, everybody on YouTube, make comments, like it, and subscribe. In some other cases, we want to build an email list, so that we just have focus on that particular call to action.
And that comes down to your business's strategy. There was a question here. I think people need a little bit of context. Winnie's asking what my business is, Steve. My business is I've got a few pillars for my business. One is I do sell information products in two spaces. I sell productivity courses. I have a course called Evernote Made Easy, another Task Apps Made Easy. So I teach productivity tools. We've just launched a new course on Slack, teaching people how to use Slack. So I've got that avenue of courses, which is a nice moneymaker. Then I've got social media courses around publishing YouTube, creating YouTube content, and teaching people how I create screencasts and teaching them the broadcast skills that I have. The next course in that series is going to be around webinars and social broadcasting and talking a lot about the skills required and also the technology and how you should apply it. So I've got those two pillars of information products. I also make money, my business, from AdSense revenue. And although it's not a lot, it's enough that it does make a difference now. And I have a Patreon community, which has just blown my mind. That's if you don't know, Patreon is like a Kickstarter, but for content creators. I started it based on wanting to do a story on it 2 years ago, and it's grown into one of my most stable models of revenue. I have over 500 people now who give me money every month to keep the channel going and to get a little bit of extra access to me, and then they get perks on top of that. So they get access to my courses for free, kind of in a modified form and this sort of stuff. So I've got and then I do speaking. I do public speaking, a fair bit of public speaking. So I'm always looking at kind of moving that entire business unit ahead, kind of en masse. So that's my business. Very much classic internet marketing as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of things here for building subscribers, which is really the part of your community side of things. We've talked about content and how we call people to action. I guess before that though, to be able to build subscribers, to build a community, you need content, right? And you need to somehow get them to watch your content. Do you have what's to say about that? Because I know the game has changed so much over time. How did you, when you started out, and also now, what did you do specifically to help you grow your viewership, and then of course because of that your subscriber base as well?
When it came down to the actual content, is I constantly am evolving, and I'm constantly kind of listening and just trying to improve my own presentation style and just tweaking the different tools. But really, the main thing is staying the course. I mean, once you have a good strategy, once you've got a flow of content coming out, then it's all about making, and I hate to kind of bring out the hackneyed phrases, but the internet marketing community, I guess sales in general, have always had people will buy from you or subscribe to you or follow you if they know you, like you, and trust you. So engendering those reactions from people is a constant mission. So just the business that I'm that if you post a comment in my YouTube channel, that I'm going to be reading it, I'm going to give it a thumbs up, I'm going to be commenting on it. That trust factor goes miles. The fact that when I post my videos, if in my Ask Dottotech videos, I answer this best I can, but often a couple of episodes later I go, you know what, I showed you how to do it this way. Somebody wrote in with a better way. Right? Transparency goes a long way, and I think increasingly in this world that becomes valuable as well. But as far as I'm concerned, community building is farming. It's caring, and it's being again, I don't like the terms always using those social terms, but it's having a servant's heart. It's looking at what your community asks for, and then going that extra mile to give it to them. And you get it all back. I mean, the bottom line is if you're erstwhile with your community and you spend the energy and they get that, once they get that, they're yours and you're theirs. It's a relationship. It's a dialogue that goes on and on. So once you hit that point, once you feel like it is, and don't get lost in the numbers. If you only have 3,000 subscribers or only have 300 subscribers or you have 300,000, the most important number is one. There's one of you and there's one community. That's your relationship. And you should honor it the same regardless what the actual physical number of the people in that community is. It's your community, own it, and take care of it and nurture it. I should get off my soapbox now.
Well, I love it because I mean it's really in line with how things naturally happen as well. I mean, I'm a real big fan of a friend of mine, Roger Hamilton, who does some amazing work in helping people with their mindsets, success mindsets. And one of the things that he said a while ago, a long time ago, that I learned from him is that whatever you focus on grows. Whatever you don't focus on starts dying, starts shrinking.
Yeah.
And I've certainly found that with YouTube as well. I mean, when I was back in the day still focusing on YouTube, I very quickly grew that my audience tremendously. I was the number one on YouTube for what I was doing for a while. And then I thought, okay, this is cool. Now I can sort of chill a bit. And I started another business, and then I started another business, and I left that focus in my YouTube channel. Instead of growing, it started sort of tapering off, and now it's sort of just plateauing. And the reason is because I'm not focusing on it. So I think there's a real good sort of, it's maybe not a statistically valid sample, but certainly in my case, I've seen a drop in community interaction and community growth because I'm not focusing on it anymore. So, and I think you just can't get away from that. You've got to. I love what you said there about the number one. There's you.
Yeah.
One community, and it's like any relationship. You got to keep on building it. You got to keep on focusing on it. So I really love that. And so by the sounds of what you're saying, Steve, is that when you do this, not only do you strengthen that relationship, but people then spread the word for you, right? Because and would you say this is a big part of your growth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is people sharing. You will get all of the natural organic growth that you deserve at that point there. But one of the things that I'm sensing from kind of reading through the comments is your audience here, if I can kind of pull us back, is interested in some really strategic challenges that they're going to face. So can I direct the comment to now dividing our focus a little bit, because I think YouTube content creators have that constant pull. We're seeing it now coming from Blab to a channel like this, but we're also seeing it from Facebook video, and we all have to make decisions around what channel and where we're going to make our efforts. And there's so many dividing social channels that compete for our attention. Can we spend a few minutes talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, good. So here's my thoughts, because I have an answer for it. Here's my thoughts, and it starts with Facebook video, because we've all been hearing all of the people saying Facebook videos numbers are crushing YouTube and this and that and the other thing. So for YouTube content creators, before you panic, before you start publishing first in Facebook, even if Facebook is courting you, we need to think through what the goals are, the long-term goals are, and who's going to carry the freight for us long-term. So here's the challenges with Facebook video. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be publishing on Facebook, but let's look at it in the real light of day. If you publish a video on Facebook and people watch it on Facebook, and then there's a chance that they won't then be watching it on YouTube. So you lose that view on YouTube, which I am very jealous of. But the other thing is, if you're spending energy promoting your video on Facebook, where is the long tail economics behind that? How do you find a video again on Facebook? How does the Facebook play of your video improve your search ranking or your authority in any way, shape, or form? So Facebook is the word ephemeral. It's there and then gone. Right? The Facebook video. You have a momentary success and then it's gone. Whereas if you publish valid content on YouTube, because of how YouTube honors good content and ranks you in search, you've got the beginning of a long tail success. So I've got videos now. I've had videos that have started out fairly strong and then just continued to do better month after month. I published one on using Google Maps 8 or 9 months ago, and it got out of the gate okay. But I was looking at my statistics the other day, and for the last 2 months, it's been my strongest performing video. And I'm going, what? That's a video I did 8 months ago. But because it's kind of just steadily grown and steadily got into the consciousness, and it keeps ranking better and better and better in search. You can't. I mean, that's the real success. That is where, when I look at my channel's success, people look at the numbers, they look at the other things. I look at what percentage of my videos are being viewed because YouTube is recommending them in search or making them a YouTube recommended video. That's the dream for YouTube content creators. Somebody types in a search for Google Docs or Google Drive, and you're because they want to learn how to use it, and there's Steve's video. Then I go, yes, that's what I want. Because
totally, and that's so true. Like and I'm not sure if Facebook will one day do this, where you can organically search for content and where it can organically rank and things like that. Maybe
but is it going to carry? Is it going to carry through into Google search? The easiest way to get things ranked, to get any of your authority ranked in Google, is by doing YouTube. YouTube's the second biggest search engine in the world, and they're married.
Absolutely, and that's what's so interesting. Like one of my videos I just checked the other day is for a product review that I did, and I really didn't think much of it. It's a very niche kind of product. I didn't expect, and I was thinking maybe a couple of thousand views or something like that. I looked the other day; it's got over 80,000 views now. And I rank number 1 for the product name of that particular product that I reviewed. If you want to check it out, if you go to YouTube and type in boogie board, my video still comes up number 1 there, and I think that's testament to the power of long-term traffic. That video just keeps on sending traffic. My most popular video was actually a video that I never wanted to upload. I showed people how to create a white background. That video's now got close to 1 million views on it. I know.
But here's the thing, Gideon. The reason that video does well is no smoke and mirrors. When we think about search ranking on our website, we think about SEO, and we think about the magic and the black magic and black hat versus white hat, and we think about fooling Google's algorithms. YouTube doesn't have that. If somebody's searching for something in YouTube and they find your video and they watch your video, YouTube goes, point for Gideon. Because YouTube has one goal, as does Google. They're basic. If you boil down what YouTube wants out of life, they want people to find what they're looking for and then watch it. It's as simple as that. So if we look at that contract and we say, wait a minute, YouTube, if I listen to what people want and then provide it and then they watch it, then we've got a business to move forward with. YouTube SEO is the simplest thing in the world. Create great content, articulate it, and support it. And YouTube will give quid pro quo to that effort, and then you will rank in search. There's no magic. It takes a little bit of patience, but it will happen. And that is, for me, that's just liberating, because I know if I'm trying to rank a website, I don't know what the factors are. There's all this voodoo and magic. If I want to rank a video, I know what the parameters are, and I know I can address those and be successful in those parameters.
Yeah, and I totally agree, because oftentimes I think people want to make it, or we want to make it harder than it really is. I mean, all that YouTube really wants is for you as the content creator to create a good experience for their viewers. And how do you do that? How can you do that better than giving people what they want? Solving problems for people, being authentic, and just being you. You don't have to be all fancy. I mean, if you look at those videos of mine at ranking, the widescreen video, I think if you type in professional videos, that's a pretty competitive keyword phrase. I think my video is currently on number 2 on that. I'm not sure where it will be on white background videos, but if you just type in professional videos, my video comes number 1. As I said, that video, I was never going to upload it, and now it's my most popular video. And so I really loved what you said there, Steve, because it does come down to, it's actually easier than trying to do all the SEO stuff. I think it is smart to still have clever title and description and tags, but don't overdo it. Overdo the value of your content. Rather do that. Rather spend your time in thinking about how can I create extra value? How can I give people what they really want? This is one of the reasons why I love these live events so much, because it's so engaging and it's so easy to create value and help people. So that's really.
Do you remember what we were talking about earlier on, Gideon, where we were talking about the habits that you form that help with content? I also have habits around publishing. I have what I call my launch sequence. And I do that, and it's repeatable, and I do it every time. And actually, there was a question earlier about what do we outsource? That's one of the things that I have just now started to outsource to an executive assistant of mine. So what I've done is I've kind of articulated all of the touch points that I need a video to have in order to be successful in my mind, and gone through them all. And it's a transferable and repeatable process. It all begins with the title. You mentioned the title. And that is just SEO, knowing what the search phrase is and making sure that you're finding good keywords. And it's not voodoo keywords, but it's like, if I'm writing about Evernote, put the word Evernote first in the frickin' title. More towards the front is better, and it weighted, and then describe what's in the video. The cool thing about YouTube is if our video is underperforming, we can go in and we can change the title, we can change the description, and we can modify it. If we've got good content that we know should be performing better, we can go in and we can tweak everything except the video itself. So don't think that it's locked and loaded, but learn how to write that title and learn what ranks. Look what titles are ranking, videos are ranking better than you, and figure out what they've done. The title is the most important thing in the early stages, in the first few hours of a video's life. Then, of course, write a good description. Then the next thing that's really important that a lot of people miss is branding. Making sure you have a thumbnail. A lot of people try and go very fancy with their thumbnail, or they try and do a screen cap with their thumbnail. I hate that. I hate screen cap thumbnails. They tell me nothing, because it might be relevant for that particular video, but it does nothing for you long-term branding. My thumbnails are boring as hell. There's a picture, but I'm not a graphic artist, so when I design them, I said, and I see yours have it too. You follow the same rules. I looked at what made Facebook ads work, and it says have somebody's face on it. Since the videos are me, I put my face on it. You put your face on it. It works. People will start to recognize it, because when YouTube suggests videos, they start bringing up those thumbnails, and you get social proof out of videos that even when you're not being watched, because they're seeing your face constantly in the sidebar. That is huge. So finding a consistent branding of your thumbnails is far more important than most people would realize. And then, of course, we go through the process of annotation. I see you're using YouTube cards here. Excellent. You've got to make sure you do all of those things for each and every video. Not any one video is going to make a difference, to overall, but combined, they're all the little steps forward that turns your channel into a success.
Brilliant. Now, Steve, we've reached about an hour into it, so it's been we've covered a lot of stuff, and the comments have just been fantastic, and people saying things like this is one of the greatest things they've seen, and learning a lot from us. So that's a lot from you. So this is fantastic. So thank you so much. I'd like to do 2 more things on this call, maybe 3 more things before we close off. The first one is we want to give away this little thing. Let me just get into the bigger screen. So I've got these little earphones I'd like to give away. Backbeat Fit wireless earphones. You can go jogging with them. They're really cool little earphones. They're worth about $160 here in Australia. I'm not sure what that's in US dollars, but I'd like to give them away. So I'm thinking the way we could give them away is to randomly choose someone from the comments area who's asked a question. So we'll give you a few minutes while we talk about the next little topic, which is going to be Blab and live video streaming. But while we're talking about it, we'd love to see questions from you in the comment area, which I think is just over there if you're watching this live. So start asking your question, and then after the next topic. Gideon. What's that?
I want one, Gideon.
Okay, so start asking your questions, and then so Steve and I will talk about Blab and Periscope and whatever else, YouTube Live, Google Hangouts, and then we'll come back to your questions and answer them, and then I'll announce the winner, the random winner, at the end and close the call. So, all right. So, Steve, just first of all, awesome about building community, doing, creating great content, all this sort of stuff. This live video thing is interesting because to me, what I found is that it seems like it's another extremely awesome way for building community, right? So it really is related to what we're talking about. So, but let's talk about what's happening here in terms of trends and where you're seeing things going. We've had Meerkat, we've had Periscope, we've had the Facebook mentions thing. Now we've got Blab. We've had YouTube Live and Google Hangouts as well. And I'm kind of surprised that YouTube hasn't come out with their own mobile kind of application for streaming live as cool as you can do with Periscope. But what are your thoughts on this whole landscape right now? Because you've been in it in much more detail than I have.
When I saw Meerkat and Periscope, we really saw it first. Kind of Meerkat for sure. Kind of hit the mainstream or hit our consciousness at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. Is that the first time you kind of it popped into your kind of frontal lobe?
Yeah, I think so. That a similar sort of time. Yeah.
I didn't like it, and it's not that I don't like it, but I didn't use Meerkat, but I started to use Periscope, and I've got a lot of friends, a lot of people like Kim Garst and Sue Zimmerman. They've just crushed it with it, and they've done some really good things. with Periscope. And Sue Zimmerman, if you've ever, Sue Gideon, she's a little ball of energy, and she's always saying, you got to be on, because you're the video guy, you got to be on. She was telling me every day, I'm doing another Periscope. Look how many Periscope followers I have. Why aren't you doing Periscope? Right. And I was like, oh, Sue, leave me alone. But the problem was that I had with Periscope is it was narrative as opposed to interactive. Even though there was comments flowing up and people would get the hearts thing going and all of that sort of stuff, the comments went by too fast for me to be able to truly engage and answer and give real value. And so, and also, just the fact it was mobile, I see the value, and I see a lot of places that it would work phenomenally well. But as a mass medium, it didn't make it for me. I saw it as a boutique video medium. I saw it for real estate agents doing open houses. I saw it for speakers as they're about to go on stage, kind of, talking to their central community just before they went on stage and give them a little backstage pass, those sorts of things. Having said that, a lot of people used it far beyond, but it just never really engaged for me. When Blab came out, and I saw Blab for the first time, and I jumped into Blab for the first time. And if you don't know, Blab is what I call social broadcasting. It's what Google Hangouts should have been, frankly. When I first stepped into a room and did a Blabcast, have you done one yet, Gideon?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
I must say I'm...
Can I pop your cherry? Will you come on with me one day in the next couple of days?
Okay, well,
good.
2 days ago I was thinking, should I just do a blab for this thing?
I
was setting up this live event, because seriously, setting up a YouTube live event is it's not a cup of tea. Yeah, it's not a cup of tea. But I would say that it's pretty awesome in terms of the end result that you get. So I think there's still a place for YouTube live events.
There is.
The reason I love YouTube live events is because of the quality video that I can create. Now today we didn't really share screen much, but I mean, when you do this sort of thing, you can do all sorts of things. Now I'm sharing screen here. I can do pretty cool stuff. But
having said that, you're technically very competent. Here's the thing about
of course.
Lab. You jump on, you click on a room, or you start a Blabcast. People come into the room. They use this Twitter tremendously effectively to crowdsource an audience for you. And people that want to participate simply click on an open chair in the room. The administrator lets them in, and the biggest technical hurdle they have is giving permission for their browser to use their camera and microphone, and then they're in talking. And the energy that comes from having a dialogue with 4 people in a live online audience facing in towards the Blab, and then this Twitter channel facing out that they automatically allow you to automatically tweet it out, and anytime anybody jumps in, they mention them in the tweet going out, so you just have this viral soup of promotion going out over top of Twitter. It's to me, the energy that it created for me was the closest thing to the adrenaline rush that I feel when I'm doing a live television show or when I'm doing a really good radio show. When I've got a radio show that I really am happy with the guests, I'm really happy with the energy. It's the closest thing to that. And it is so accessible. It's so easy. So I have done a lot of Google Hangouts. That's my main webinar tool. I use Webinar Jam, and when I'm selling my products or when I'm doing educational webinars, that's the tool I use. We are launching a new product this week, and in our webinars, we, instead of keeping people in for the Q&A in Google Hangouts, as soon as we reach the end of the kind of the presentation slideshow part of the webinar, I create on the fly a blab, drop the URL into the webinar, and it's like being at a wedding where you're all at the reception and it's all stodgy and all formal at the reception. And then they say, okay, let's go across the street to the reception hall and let's all drink. And everybody heads over to the blab, and we have great, energetic Q&A. And the cool thing is, I've got, I'm not saying that we don't still have to use a tool like Google Hangouts or something like that, because we need to gate it. I need to know who's in the room. I need email responses. I need to do a follow-up sequence because I'm trying to sell them something at the end of the day. I've got to make an offer. But as soon as we get them over into the blab, it becomes organic, and people start joining in and seeing the energy and hearing about the product that we're selling or hearing about the story that we're telling that weren't a part of our webinar. So we're expanding our reach dramatically. It's a little bit of magic. Mike Stelzner from Social Media Examiner jumped on one morning, and he didn't get off for 3 days. It was, and he's not a guy. He's a guy
Yeah.
that's jealous of his time, big time,
Yeah.
because he has so much pressure on his time. He lived on Blab, and he just said it's revolutionary. And the people using Blab, we are not pioneers. No, we are not. We're not early adopters. We're pioneers. Because it's that early. So it's primarily
early.
being used by social media types right now, but it is going to explode into your consciousness. As soon as you do one, Gideon, you're just going to recognize that next time you come back and do one of these, and you have to do all of the different settings and go through the steps and make sure, and the anxiety that you have that it's going to work, the anxiety that we all have in a Google Hangout. What happens if it drops my connection? We're all screwed. That doesn't happen in Blab. In Blab, I was doing it today, hosting one. My computer shut down. It overheated for some reason. My fan didn't kick in at the right time. My computer stopped. I picked up my smartphone. I hit the Blab app. I re-entered the room that I was hosting. It was still going on, and I took back control of it, and there was no harm done. Could you imagine having that degree of recoverability in anything in the Google Hangout space?
Yeah. Absolutely. And like we've got last night I was actually here till midnight to try and figure out how I can have a second connection for this call today. I couldn't actually sort it out. So I'm so grateful that it didn't actually drop today. But that's the big fear. You drop and then people go, where is everybody? And how do you get back in again?
Terrible. My introduction to you, which you've recovered from, was a horrendously difficult technical screencast of some sort that you were doing. And I know it wasn't your fault, but you had a real series of challenges with the connection with the guest that you had from the States. And oh my gosh, and I could see you, and I just had I think
that was painful.
At that moment, even though I didn't know you, because I've been through that. And your stomach was in a knot. You were anxious. You were probably sweating. Your vision was narrowing. There was probably a roaring in your ears. It was
not a good experience. No.
No. And you don't experience that fear when you're doing Blab. It's really a whole different social experience and online experience. So
I can't wait to jump on a call with you, Steve. I'd love to do a Blab with you. I've been a little bit busy with my other businesses, especially V-Roll.
Well, that's the problem with Blab. Is as Stelzner calls it, he calls it digital crack. And there's some people there that still haven't showered since their first moment on, and it's weeks now. So it's thank goodness.
Well, I experienced a very similar thing with Periscope, but I had similar issues to what you had with Periscope. The comments were coming through too quickly, and it was fun and engaging. I just saw it more of a distraction, and I thought, do I spend time investing building a community there now? What do I do? Blab sounds pretty cool, so I'd love to check it out with you and see how things go with that. So I think we've got to get to questions next, but just one last thought on the live stuff. Okay, so we've had a ton of services pop up now, because it sort of started with, I think YouTube Live must have been first. Sorry, not at all. We had Justin TV and Ustream and all those guys, and probably before that there were others too. We got Twitch as well. Then we had YouTube Live, Google Hangouts. We've had a Periscope, Meerkat, Periscope. I'm trying to say them all in order. Meerkat, Periscope, then Facebook mentions.
Facebook, yeah.
And now Blab, and who knows what else is there, right?
Don't forget appear.in, which is like Blab but for private rooms.
Okay. All right. And of course, the whole webinar thing with GoToWebinar, which is sort of prehistoric now, right? So what's next? Is it going to be Blab? Is YouTube going to come up with something huge? Is it going to be Facebook that's going to steal the show? What do you reckon?
Let's look. YouTube has not shown an appetite for this market. They've had plenty of opportunities, but YouTube Live, YouTube looks at as an event. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gideon, but I get the sense that YouTube sees this space as an event-based space, not social commentary-based space. So they want somebody who has the technical ability. And if you have a TriCaster, so much the better. If you have some sort of switcher and your own compression at your own end, so much the better. If you want to do a concert or a speech or a packaged piece and deliver it as a broadcast network, so much the better. YouTube sees itself in a video space as being broadcast. They add chat for us and they add the community for us, but they screw it up all the time too because of the Google Plus integration. Totally. But that's their nod to social. The video itself, is not social. I mean, YouTube cards, seriously, that's as far as we've come with interactivity in how many years? I mean, I like
Yeah,
YouTube cards, don't get me,
yeah,
but
same.
it's a pretty poor substitute for real interactivity, isn't it? So
Yeah, I'm like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm surprised in a way, but maybe they've made the conscious decision and said, "Look, it's not our game. We're not going to play it. We're
they're
going to play another
broadcasters.
game." Yeah,
They're
right.
broadcasters, and they figured out a revenue model based on advertising. These other space are not broadcasters. They're conversation makers. Blab doesn't say they want to compete with TV, but they want to turn TV into a conversation, not into a broadcast. That's the thing, is they want to be the conversation platform that we use. So that's the difference. But YouTube if YouTube is happy not being a megalomaniac organization, but they're really happy owning the broadcast space, the distribution space that they are, and having the little bit of social network that they have currently with the existing chat that we have and that sort of functionality, they're going to benefit by not trying to compete, because every Blabcast that's worthwhile. I mean, I don't think every Blabcast is worthwhile, but Blab creators are already leaping all over the podcast capabilities of Blab. So they record their podcast in live, that much more energy. They get the MP3 file sent to them, and they upload it to their podcast channel with very little editing. It's working tremendously well for all the podcasters that are embracing it. So let's look at the video side. Now, while the content, I think we like to consume this content live rather than recorded, people will still consume this content recorded. The problem is there's too much filler in a Blab. So I see good content creators, and the way that I'm looking at it long term is I'm already having conversations with my people about saying, let's do a sizzle reel at the end of the week of every Blab that I'm involved in. Let's just take them, let's edit them down into 10 minutes, and where's it going to go? YouTube. YouTube's going to benefit then.
Right. Very cool. So that's interesting, and I think it's we're right at the beginning of it. In terms of the product adoption lifecycle, when it comes to live streaming, I think we're really just at the beginning. So this is a fun space to watch if you're interested in building community, interested in building an audience, a global audience online. I mean, the live video streaming for me is the most exciting trend, especially combining that with mobile and live streaming. Those two massive trends combining is just incredible to watch. Steve, I'm going to switch over to Q&A now, but before I do,
please,
if you've enjoyed watching this video so far, there's still a good number of people on the call.
Yeah, I've got 100.
Please go ahead, give us a thumbs up. Maybe share it with somebody. Would love for this video to get shown to your friends and other people as well, to help as many people as we can. What we're going to do now is actually do some Q&A, and then after Q&A, I'll hand out this. I'll select the winner for these earphones. So
I've got a question for you, Gideon. Does this chat remain with the video, or do you have to save it separately?
That's one of the things that has been a massive annoyance with YouTube live events. They used to record the chat here as comments for the video, but now, once the live event is done, all these comments disappear.
Shut up. So you copy them then?
I don't know. I don't know what to do with them. I thought one way is to actually record them while I'm doing it. I didn't actually record them today. So I might still have access to them today during the live session and straight afterwards. And I might post it somewhere or something.
I think you can select them.
Yeah, maybe select them. And yes, the text and export as a text file or something like that. So I might have to do that.
I'm going to see if I can copy them into Evernote while we're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of my pain points with YouTube live events. I don't know why they've removed that. Which is quite sad, because you want to see that interaction afterwards. You want to see the questions people had during the call.
Well, I'd love to read back. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I always do that in my webinars. I always go back and read the chat afterwards.
It's tremendously good for learning. I think you can still access them as the user in your private. If your video is set to private, I think you can still see them. I've seen people mention that. But when it's public or even unlisted, you can't see the comments anymore. So it's very silly.
It does. I was able to copy. I shift selected them all.
Okay.
Gideon, right to the top, and I pasted them just into Evernote, and they're all there with the avatars and everything. So
now the question is, does it actually when you scroll right up, does it go right to the beginning of the comments?
Yes, it did. I think it does. Yeah. And so you can take that and paste it into the into the description. I wonder how many lines we can have in the description.
Right. Well, that's going to be tested very soon then. Okay, right. So let's jump into the Q&A. So feel free to ask more questions as we go. We're not going to be able to answer all questions. I think let's spend about. I mean, how much time do you have, Steve? Maybe spend 15 to 20 minutes on Q&A.
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
let's try and bring this in about an hour and a half. I think that's plenty long for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll answer a few questions. So let me see. Let's see if there's. Now I've got to scroll all the way down again. Just give me a sec. All right. Where were all the questions?
That's one of the things that's happening in Blab is you can demark questions as opposed to comments by flagging them.
Okay.
/Q.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So
things like that.
Here's an interesting question from Winnie Curry. She's saying, Steve, what video editor are you using for your YouTube videos? But also maybe in a wider discussion there, do you have any tips on how to get your videos done and edited very quickly and easier?
You know, I use ScreenFlow I'm on a Mac, and I just love it. I think it's an awesome $97. I think when I bought it, it was $300 and some odd, and I still I'm not jealous of one penny of that. It's money very well spent many times over. I look at video as my word processor, so I edit it myself. I don't think that that's the best way to do things, and I believe that will be probably one of the next things that I switch over and look to outsource. But just because of, in startup mode, it gives me the best ability to be able to play around with formats and play around with looks and that sort of stuff. So I recommend that you do it yourself. Learn to do it yourself. And ScreenFlow or Camtasia, even though they're screencasting software, they're just phenomenal for all aspects of video. And while we're on it, if I could just give one tip to people about the video, if I'm not going to talk to you about performance or anything like that, but lose the animated openings, for God's sakes, people. If I'm going to watch your video, tell me what I'm going to see, and then get into the content. Now, I do have a little bit of entertainment and kind of just use my personality a little bit because that's the brand that I give. But I give that to people in the first 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds of the video. Then I have a short 7-second bumper, and then I'm into my content. And I'm actually thinking about trying to figure out a way, come up with a new format to lose the bumper, because you don't want to lose people. And those 30-second 3D animated openings, how often have you clicked away? And that just kills you on YouTube. So get into the content quickly.
Totally. And I can't agree more there with you, Steve. I mean, in my Splashio method report that you can download for free at splashio.com, I talk about that as well, where you use the first few seconds for just opening up that loop, right? You grab people, and then you can have your little animated intro. But even then, I think, our older ones are like 5 seconds long, but we've been bringing it down to like 3 seconds, sometimes half a second, just boom, just get it in there. And, people are there for the content. They're not there for your branding. So really great answer. Okay, next question from Tasha Nesbitt saying, Steve, can you describe your monetization process from someone on your site buying your course, and what tools do you use, and what does the flow look like all the way to your checking account?
Okay, well, I just have a WordPress install on my website, and I use Optimize Press as for most of my sales pages. I use another theme for the main pages, but for all of my sales pages, I use Optimize Press, and I have Infusionsoft at the back end doing all my CRM. So all sales pages lead straight through to Infusionsoft, where they go to a PayPal checkout on page, which takes them through to either into the membership site, or I deliver a lot of my courses without membership sites are very difficult to maintain, in my opinion, and they're a lot of work. So some of my courses I actually deliver by Evernote. And it all started when I developed an Evernote course, and I thought, wow, the shared note feature in Evernote is awesome. So I actually send out a series of 10 emails for my Evernote course, for example. I use the email autoresponder to send a series of 10 emails to you on 10 consecutive days, and each one has a shared note link to an Evernote note that has embedded videos and all that sort of stuff in it. And that's how I deliver some of my courses. So I always look for the path of least resistance. I actually stole that idea from Lisa Larder, not the Evernote part, but just using an email autoresponder as a course delivery mechanism. Building really fancy back end, all of the different permissions that you have to do into your membership area is a lot of work. Having said that, I do that in some of my premium courses, but it's a lot easier since I now outsource my Infusionsoft work. I've got a woman that works with me, April, who helps me with my Infusionsoft. As a content creator and an internet marketer, I installed all of the tools myself. I installed Infusionsoft, which is a difficult program to learn, but I needed to know all of its capabilities. So I bothered to learn it. I took the time because it's integral to my future moving ahead. Now that I've got it installed, there's other people that can do it better, but I still know how to do it. Now, if I have to jump in and fix something, I can do it, or even do something if they're away, I can do it. But that's the sort of stuff that I look to outsource. I don't know if I answered that clearly enough, but that's the base. That's my main revenue channel.
Brilliant. Okay, so. And now, I know these are just brief questions. So I mean, you could probably have a whole another call just on the monetization and the process of that. So we can't go into too much detail there. So I like these shorter answers, Steve, so we can get through a few more. Got a few more minutes. Question from Simple Audio Tips: how do you bridge the period when you are committed to working full time, but are keen to grow your channel into a business? I thought that's a great question. Maybe you've got some ideas on that as well.
Stop spending money. I wish I had. I don't know. I went cold turkey. I don't have a good suggestion there. But the nice thing about YouTube is, I mean, you can create a boutique community and build slowly. You don't have to build fast. So your own bandwidth is going to determine that, and your own revenue, and your own, and frankly, your own creativity and skills. But I don't have a model that is successful to follow, and I wouldn't recommend you follow mine because I had more bad days than good days early on.
Yeah, it's certainly. I'd certainly look at cash flow in a big way. Make sure you've got something happening for your cash flow so that you can support yourself while you're building.
A kept man.
What do you mean? You've got a sugar mommy?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, look at this. Is there any doubt?
Right. Yeah. Well, I had the same in the first 2 years. My wife, she was working while I was starting the business, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So this was 9 years ago. But then that 2 years of her working while I was starting the business allowed us to get the business up and running, and then very soon after that, she quit her job, and we were able to pay all our bills and more from just the business. So you make sure you got your cash flow always sorted. You don't want to be stressed with cash. Yeah. Another question here from Republic of Random. My question is, how do YouTube networks work, and how do you know if you're joining a good one?
I am not an expert on the multi-channel networks, and I don't know if you are either, Gideon. I don't like them. I just don't like putting my future in somebody else's hands. I spent a lot of time working for networks and television, and they were terrible business partners. I don't like them. I liked individuals there. I didn't like the corporate entities. I can see the reason that some people do engage in the gaming market, where the Twitch market, where in order to make your way to be successful, you might have to. But finding somebody else and giving them access to those most important analytics, all of your, what's happening with your AdSense, what's happening with all those sorts of things. I just don't like giving control away of my business to somebody else. So I won't do it. I get an invitation pretty much every day. And sometimes they get through on the phone. And when they do, I feel like I just don't want to say more. I don't like it. I would recommend you not do it if you can possibly avoid it. There are a few good ones. I mean, people like Maker Studios. Disney, great partner to have, but do you need it? That's the big question. And I haven't seen very many cases where I say, "Oh, you wouldn't have made it without them."
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, no, I get the requests all the time as well. It's like, hey Gideon, you've just made partner status, blah blah blah. Would you like to join our network? And I'm just going, why? What's the point? I can build my own audience and own my own audience, and there's no real reason to join another network. And it just makes it complicated. I mean, from my point of view, yeah.
And are they really going to have better advertising sales than AdSense? Are they going to go out and form
Yeah.
better relationships than AdSense?
Yeah, and here's
I
the
mean,
interesting thing. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something
I
really
mean,
cool there.
when you
I can tell.
reach a point and you understand your business, there will be new revenue opportunities that will be placed before you. I'm 3 years into this now. We're getting, what is it? I'm getting 200, nearly 300,000 views a month on my videos. So now I'm not a huge player, but I'm significant enough. So now all of a sudden an opportunity comes along for me, which resonates with me. So I've actually signed what I consider to be a sponsor, but it's really an affiliate relationship. If we're going to get right down to the nitty gritty, folks, come in and I'll tell you the secret about what I'm doing and what's kind of my next passive income plan for my channel. I found a product which really fits for me. It's a product that requires a little bit of technical explanation. It resonates very well with baby boomers, and they've got an affiliate model that creates long-term passive revenue. So when I looked at that, I said, that's what I'm interested in. In the product, I'll mention it here, not because I'm expecting people to come and sign up for it through it, but so you understand, you can put a kind of a face behind those criteria. It's a company called Blockless, and what they are is DNS switching. They also offer VPN services. They both sound geeky and ridiculous, don't they? But the VPN service, Gideon, this will resonate with you, allows people in Australia, New Zealand, Canada to watch US Netflix with their native account. US Netflix is way better than anything we get in Canada or you get in Australia. They get all the good shows. We get the crappy shows.
Yeah, we've got Netflix here, but it's certainly it sounds like it's definitely not the same
Exactly.
as what people
So
getting
what
in
this
America.
does is it redirects your DNS to a US DNS so that when Netflix offers you the roster of shows to watch, you get American shows. It's legal. It's relatively simple, but it does require doing some slight modifications either to your device, just in the DNS settings, or in your router. So it's perfect for me who does technical explanations. And baby boomers want to use it because there's free services, but there's all sorts of things around the free services that make people scared. Baby boomers are happy to spend $5 a month to get better TV if they know it's legal and they know it's stable and they know they're dealing with a real company. So it's a perfect product for me to promote. So I'm starting to do, with some of my products, promote this sort of a product. And there's other aspects of the business. But is that not, when you look at that and you say, wow, now every time that a sale is made, I'm going to make passive revenue for the length of that customer being a part of that company. Doesn't that make sense as a business person? Don't you get excited about that potential? More so than joining some large group of people who say that we're going to make you all rich together because we can do a better job of selling ads than anybody else. No. At the end of the day, I know my channel better than you do. And I know my audience better than you do because I talk to them every day. When I see a product and a company that comes along that says, Steve, this might be something that your market's interested in, I go, yes, they are. Now I can make the best deal for my channel and I can make it work. That's the route that I want to take.
Brilliant. I think there's time for, or I'd like to just honor one of my subscribers. I'd love to just answer that question from, and then we'll make the announcement for the winner of the little earphones from Robert Wiseman. He's been a long-time subscriber. Robert, if you're still watching, it's great to have you here. So Steve, we can just answer this quickly, and then we'll make the announcement for the winner. So Robert's asking, if you depend on a local market, what is the best ways to use YouTube to conquer in a local market? What do you reckon, Steve?
YouTube in a local market can give... I think that what YouTube in the local... Oh, geez, it's so tough. Without knowing the industry, here's what I will say. Numbers are irrelevant. Customers are relevant to a local marketplace. So if you have a video, if you are a home alarm company and you have a video about the details of the new electronic locks that you're using that give people better access to their locks and setting their alarms, and you do a little video with your smartphone app and your thing, and you only have 40 people see it, but 30 of those touch base with you and 20 of them buy it, that's a huge success. You have to measure what success looks like in your area. And YouTube, which is designed to be a global delivery platform, scaling that down into local is difficult to articulate the value proposition for any individual. So I try not to. I mean, typically speaking, when I think of local, as the best vehicles for for regional business or local business or hyper local. I think of the Instagrams of the world as being one of the most instant and best ones because it can be so identifiable, it's so accessible, it costs you nothing and almost no time to create the media, and it's really engaging for a small, concise group of people. YouTube is really designed to get to a large group. Having said that, using video for marketing, if you reach the right people, is tremendously valuable. So I know that I'm not giving great advice there, but it's just I don't know how to advise, because that's one thing I have decided in my business I'm not going to do, is I don't know how to articulate this to the local barbershop or to the local realtor. That isn't a marketplace that I've ever really been able to figure out. So I'm not going to just buffalo you and tell you that I've got that part figured out. But know this: the one kind of truth that you can come from it is you don't need huge numbers for it to be successful in hyper local business.
Great answer. I've got something to throw in there as well, Robert. If you're still watching, something worth trying is YouTube video ads. I mean, I know I'm a little biased there. I'm totally in love with it, and also now Facebook video ads. That's part of our VRoll platform. But give it a go. But instead of thinking about the placement, video placement, targeting option, that is a fantastic option, especially for bigger audiences. But for local, it can become a little bit more challenging. Try out building a remarketing list on your website, and then remarketing to those people on YouTube with video ads. And while we're at it, you can do the same, of course, with Facebook. So build your remarketing list on your website, remarket to them on both YouTube and Facebook. So you got to use YouTube video ads for that, or AdWords now they've integrated.
I love that idea.
And then on do the same on Facebook. The conversion rates we're seeing at the moment is crazy. And so for local video marketing, local video marketing, if you're already getting traffic to your site, build that list of remarketing people that you can remarket to. They're gonna react, and they're gonna respond to your ads when you show them on YouTube and on Facebook. So nice little tip. If you were hanging out until now, that's a piece of gold that you can use. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this with this handing this thing out. So before we close off and say thanks to Steve, is what I'm going to do is, Steve, I'm going to cover up your face with the comments area. So let's see if this works. Yes, it does work. So let's put it there, and you'll be able to watch me do this. Let me just get them all in there. Okay, great. So I've got the comments here. You can see me scrolling now in real time. So the way I'm going to do this is to give away this cool little set of earphones is I'm going to randomly scroll through this list of comments, and I'm going to go up and down. Steve, maybe you can tell me how many times to go up and how many times to go down and up and down again to make it random. And then wherever my mouse pointer is stopped, when you say stop, that will be the winner of the earphones. And for the winner, if you can just send me a message on YouTube, please. Okay. So go to the YouTube messaging system and go to on my channel or on your channel, whatever. But send me a message through YouTube, and I should be able to get it, and I'll get your details and send it out to you. So I'm gonna close my eyes, Steve, and you're gonna tell me how. Just
now, I can't see. I can't see. So you don't have to close your eyes. So I'm going to scroll up 3 times.
Okay, 3 times. So 1, 2,
3 scrolls.
3. Yep.
2 scrolls down.
1, 2.
Now move your cursor. Put your cursor over top of a name, and then move up 2 names and pick that one.
So so put it on a name. So I guess it's on a name already, and then 2 names above that name, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Who is it?
It's on Memphis Pro at the moment. So you said I've got to go 2 up.
Oh, sorry, Memphis.
So 1. Well, actually, it goes 2 up to Memphis Pro again.
Oh.
So how lucky is that? So right. Memphis Pro, you're the winner here for our absolutely fabulous way of finding winners. Let me just zoom in on my full face. So you'll get this sent to you. Just make sure you connect with me on YouTube. Send me a message there, and we'll get your details, and we'll send it out to you. Cool.
I have to tell you, Gideon, I've loved the chat. I've loved reading through it. I wish I could have answered more questions, but you've got a really great and engaged community here, and I hope we gave them value. But I've gotten a lot out of this conversation, so I got to thank everybody for that.
Yeah, it's been amazing having you on the show, Steve. I'd love to do these more often. It's been months, I think, since I've done a proper one like this. I'd love to do them more often, but at the moment, really, it's I'm kind of treating this part of my business more like a hobby, and I'm focusing a lot of my time on V-roll at the moment,
Yes.
which is doing really well, which is great. But it's been awesome to have you on the show. Just again, if people want to visit Steve's site, if you go to dototech.com, I'm just showing to people here on the screen. Check it out. Subscribe to his newsletter. There's the Dotto Tech news. Stay in touch with Steve. Make sure you subscribe to that. Go to Steve's YouTube channel, which is I think if you just go to probably the easiest if you go to the little card here, card annotation, click on that. You can go and check out Steve's channel and subscribe and interact with Steve there as well. But Steve, thank you very much. It's been awesome. Thank you for sharing such wonderful knowledge and experience that you've been learning over the last few years.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some of these other names and some of the other channels. It's been great to meet you all. And Gideon, thanks for the opportunity and for hosting this.
And I look forward to seeing you on Blab.
Amen. We'll book that real soon.
All right. Talk to you
Have
soon,
fun
Steve.
storming the castle.
Bye, everybody. Thanks again.